Yo, what's going on, everybody, and welcome back to my channel, Movie Files. Doing something a little kind of out of the ordinary in regards to just like covering news. I covered some news on our WandaVision recap series, which that kind of leads right into why I'm doing something like this. I miss WandaVision. It's over. It's officially over this past Friday, but I want to kind of talk to you all about some recent news, kind of some behind the scenes stuff that just came out over the weekend, and particularly, I believe it was yesterday, Matt Shakman, the director of, I believe, all 9 episodes of WandaVision, was on a podcast with Kevin Smith, and he talked about some things that we're going to kind of dive into in this live stream. Again, kind of I thought over the last minute. Again, I'm a big WandaVision fan. You all know, if you've been watching my channel for a while, we covered it every single Friday with deep dive reviews. We had an incredible live stream every single Saturday, diving into the episodes, diving into some of the MCU news. So again, we're going to be kind of missing that for the next week or so. Of course, we're leading into Falcon and Winter Soldier next week, which I'm so excited for. And then that dives right into Loki. And then hopefully, we'll get, Black Widow by then. But we'll see what the future holds. But again, today's live stream, we're going to be, as the title alludes to in the description, we're going to be talking about some behind the scenes that just came out the other day regarding some changes to WandaVision show as a whole, such as the episode count, some deleted, some cut scenes, as well as just some other things that came about regarding, Reed Richards, Scratchy the Bunny, all that different stuff. We're going to dive into it. So if you all are tuning in live, I appreciate it. Again, it's kind of random, so I don't expect a lot of people to tune in because there was not much lead up to this live stream. But again, if you're joining me live, I appreciate it. Make sure to give the video a thumbs up, share the video, leave your thoughts in the chat. I will be taking, because it's going to be me solo dolo this time around, so it's just me talking about this news. So go ahead and leave your questions, comments, concerns in the chat. I'll try to read them as often as I can during this live stream. But of course, if you're watching this on the replay, leave your thoughts on some of this stuff that we're going to dive into in the comments below. Let's talk about some of the changes. Should have been 10 episodes. Should we have gotten certain scenes that was left on the cutting room floor? Should we have gotten the reveal of the engineer? Let me know all your thoughts on that if you're watching this on the replay. So let's just go ahead and dive into the first kind of topic at hand. So again, we got to start at the beginning in regards to pre-production of the show and some of the announcements or some of the news that came out in the last 24 hours. So let me pull up one of the articles. So one of the first articles here comes from Murphy's Multiverse in regards to a couple things that was announced yesterday or kind of revealed during the podcast that Kevin Smith had Matt Shakman on. So again, one of the first things we want to kind of dive into is WandaVision was originally supposed to be 10 episodes long. Now, this was a conversation, a rumor that dates back to a couple months ago. It was a rumor out there that some people heard through the grapevine that there was supposed to be this mysterious 10th episode after last week's finale. And there was a little bit of steam, a little bit of momentum behind that due to certain Instagram posts that Disney had. I think one of the posts that they had before the 8th episode was that there were 2 episodes left. And a lot of people interpret that as, well, how can it be 2 episodes left if this is the 8th episode and there's only 9 episodes? So that means there's a mystery episode. So there's a little bit of momentum, a little bit of steam behind that. And then, of course, you had the just the idea of like, okay, so we're going to be this empty week without content from WandaVision leading into Falcon and Winter Soldier. So a lot of people were speculating, well, wouldn't it be just like a mic drop moment if they just announced they have a 10th episode in between the finale of this show leading into Falcon and Winter Soldier? So there's a little bit of momentum behind that. But of course, we all know that didn't come true. But in regards to this article, again, this website, I have all the links and all of the articles and all that stuff in the description, but this comes from Murphy's Multiverse, and this was the podcast that the director Matt Shakman was on last night over the weekend on Kevin Smith's podcast, which is a great, I haven't watched the whole video, but I watched some snippets of it. And Kevin Smith, I'm a big fan of Kevin Smith. Number one, he always just kind of hits the world with these bombs out of left field, right? I remember when Star Wars Rise of Skywalker was coming out, or like months before it came out, he like said on his podcast like different things that he heard about behind the scenes, different moments about how it was going to end. I mean, he's always dropping news about behind the scenes with Marvel movies. He, revealed the stuff about some of the Snyder cuts. So Kevin Smith just like comes out of left field with these bombs, but he's a great big fan of his work as a director, and I love his podcast. So definitely check that out. It's like a 2-hour video of him interviewing Matt Shakman in regards to how he became a director, how he, some of his previous works, this, that, and the other. And of course, the majority of that episode was talking about WandaVision. So just scrolling down a little bit here, this was a quote from Matt Shakman regarding the idea of having a 10th episode, as you all can see now, regarding him talking about there was constant changing going on and things getting rewritten, rebroken, and all that stuff. The story was changing. There was a lot of stuff that was going on, obviously, in the real world that affected the finale, which is so funny. So if you guys tuned in on Saturday on our live stream, myself, Amanda, Chris, as well as our special guests that we had on, Zach Pope, Sharonda, and Tessa. Zach told us before we went live, and he mentioned in the stream that he had heard some news about there was a little bit of shakeup behind the scenes regarding the finale being affected by the pandemic, which Matt Shakman did kind of confirm over the weekend. Again, going back to his quotes, they were talking about they were experimenting with a lot of different things. And at one point, this is the quote here, there was a plan to do 10 episodes, but they end up collapsing a couple just because I guess he says, it just makes the rhythm feel a little bit better. So in regards, and he goes into a little bit more regarding some of the changes that took place, and they had to do a lot of course of action due to the pandemic, and there was a lot of post-production things they had to change. But again, going back to the idea that initially they wanted to do 10 episodes of WandaVision. So 10 episodes of this show, I'm just kind of thinking of that quote, which I don't know if we necessarily would have needed a 10th episode. If you guys saw my review and again, watched the great discussion we had on Saturday, the point of the show, I think they wrapped up the main thread, right? Which is Wanda's grief, facing her grief for the first time, but also diving into, obviously Vision and him having the white Vision, finally having some opportunity to have his own say in how he wants to kind of live his life, as we saw him just kind of literally go into not thin air, but he went out to the library and just went on to, live his life essentially, right? Because as Ultron, or I should say as Vision's creation, from Jarvis into, being created by Ultron, to being killed by Thanos, to, coming back into the Hex by Wanda. He never really has control over his life. So I think that the emotional moments stuck the landing, the emotional impact stuck the landing. But in regards to if they were to do a 10th episode, I don't know what else they would have explored, right? Let me know in the comments. Again, those that are watching this live, again, thank you for tuning in. But also let me know if you're watching this on the replay, what would have a 10th episode of WandaVision look like? Only thing that I can kind of conjure up is what's going on? How you doing? We've got some people in the chat showing some love. Again, thank you guys for tuning in. Again, this is a random live stream. I don't do a lot of random things on the channel. I always try to be as purposeful as possible, but I just figured I want to jump on here because I'm missing some WandaVision. I figured we'd dive into some of these behind the scenes stuff that came out today. But again, thank you all for tuning in. Make sure to like the video, share the video, leave your thoughts in the live chat. And of course, if you're watching us on the replay, if you can do the same, it will be greatly appreciated. But again, going back to a 10th episode, what does that look like? Only thing I can think is maybe you flesh out more of the secondary characters, which we'll talk about here, like Monica and some of the other characters, Ralph Boner, and things like that. But yeah, I don't know what you get more of Monica's story a little bit in a 10th episode. Potentially you explore more of, Agatha. We all talked about it in regards to the finale with Wanda leaving her there at Westview, but like, what does that mean? Because I don't think the people of Westview is going to be accepting any witches in town anytime soon. So like, I guess they could have explored what Agatha, where she could have went, who she could have went with. Maybe she finds a new coven of some sorts, or maybe her and Ralph Boner go on a road trip together or whatnot. So I really don't know what else a 10th episode would have provided to the audience. So I think the plan of not doing 10 episodes probably made sense for the better. Of course, we would have loved it as WandaVision fans. It would have been cool to see that. But I think it would have just kind of, I don't want to say over-welcomed this stay, but I think they wrapped up what they were trying to tell in 9 episodes. So I'm okay with it not having that having that 10th episode, in my personal opinion there. But let me know in the chat if you guys would have liked to have seen a 10th episode, and if so, what would you have liked to have seen be executed in that 10th episode? And the rest of this just kind of goes into the persons who wrote this article's thoughts on it regarding maybe fleshing out some things. There were some things that felt a bit rushed, which I could agree to that. But really my main flaw with the 10th episode, or the 9th episode, I should say, was not necessarily feeling rushed, but I did feel like the there were some action beats that just didn't feel organic to the show in regards to the action feeling a little incomplete in my personal opinion. And compared to like just the emotional resonance that's set within the show, it just felt kind of awkward getting all those action beats. So that stuff didn't work for me. But the second half of the finale was like the strongest element of the show because again, it focused on Wanda and Vision. Thanks for this. I'll eat up. I know, right? I love me some WandaVision. It's going to be so weird. I'm going to still have some content for WandaVision this week. More of the clip outs that I've been doing for the last month or two regarding the conversation that we had, a 3-hour long conversation we had on Saturday. So I'll have like clip outs of some of the highlights from that episode that we did. But yeah, no Wanda, no Vision for the foreseeable future. Obviously, you know, it's geared up. We're going to be seeing Wanda in potentially the end of the year with Spider-Man 3, No Way Home. And then, of course, we're going to see her next March with Doctor Strange 2. But who knows? We might see her pop up in someone's show later this year. You know, we got Loki coming in May. We got Miss Marvel later this year, which I think, if anything, maybe Monica Rambeau might appear in that show. What else do we have? I don't see her really fitting into Hawkeye, but you know, who knows? But again, I think the next time we're supposed to see Wanda, like guaranteed, is obviously Doctor Strange into the multiverse. But Vision, when's the next time we're going to see Vision? You know, we talked about it on Saturday. I theorized that it would make sense that, which may be next year sometimes, but you guys know that we got the announcement of the Ironheart Riri Williams show. I think it would be pretty fitting if we would see White Vision in her show, not like a secondary character, but just like make an appearance. Because if you think about it, when was the first time we were introduced to Paul Bettany's Vision, or in that case, Jarvis was in Iron Man? So wouldn't it make sense to see him again in an Ironheart show, just kind of full circle of him coming into the mix? I think that would be great if we saw Vision in that. And then also, you know, obviously it would be, in movie wise, it would be cool to see Vision pop up in a Spider-Man 3, a Doctor Strange 2, whatever the case may be. But I think that Riri Williams meeting Vision, the White Vision, would be like a cool full circle for that character of him being first introduced in Iron Man, and then we see him again for the first time since WandaVision in Ironheart with Riri Williams. I think that would be really, really cool. But again, let me know when's the next time you would like to see Wanda, when you would like to see Vision in the foreseeable future. But we also have another article here that dives into some other behind the scenes with, you know, we talked about the 10th episode, which I'm fine with, but this is a little bit more in the minutia. This dives into a little bit more of how the pandemic changed the finale. So, you know, initially having 10 episodes, but what was really affected by, you know, things being shooken up by the pandemic. This is where this article really kind of dives into it a little bit more into detail. Again, all of this was talked about on Kevin Smith's podcast the other day. Again, as the article points out, Kevin Smith interviewed the Fatman Beyond podcast, had the director Matt Shakman on, and he kind of dove into some of the behind the scenes that went through WandaVision and some of the things that unfortunately had to be taken out of the show due to the pandemic and due to scheduling and things of that nature. So here's one thing that's pretty spot on in my review that I mentioned a couple months ago. So here's: the studio was originally planning to release the first 3 episodes simultaneously, which, going back to, if you all watched my review, I was really fortunate enough to see the WandaVision first 3 episodes a week before it released, which I was very thankful and very honored to be able to see it early. And I mentioned in that review, and I mentioned it in our live stream the following Saturday, that I always felt like, organically speaking, narratively speaking, I'm sorry for all these ads, all these pop-up ads. Let me see if I can just kind of zoom in so it's not so distracting. There we go. But I always felt like, narratively speaking, it would have been so great to have the first 3 episodes delivered to the audience, just like it was to the press. Like, I was able to see the first 3 episodes back to back to back. And to me, cohesively speaking, it fits so well into the narrative. Because if we go back to, you know, what was it, the 15th of the beginning of the year, look at that story narrative. When we first meet Wanda and Vision, and they have the dinner prepared for the Hart family. Remember what Mr. Hart and Mrs. Hart asked Wanda and Vision: where do you guys come from? Why aren't you married? Where are the kids? And if you think of those questions, they were answered within the following episodes, right? By the end of episode 1, where it happens to Wanda and Vision, they get married. They have their rings, so now they're officially married. We go to episode 2, the whole thing about, you know, it's for the kids, the talent show thing. And the whole narrative was where are the kids? As episode 2 ends, Wanda's pregnant. We go on to episode 3. They officially have the kids. So I think narratively speaking, it would have been, just cohesively speaking, it would have just made sense to have all 3 episodes delivered to the audience all at one time. Obviously, we know that didn't happen. They only gave us the first, or they gave the public the first 2 episodes, but it goes into it a little bit further regarding why they decided to do the first 2 episodes. And even the person in the article says it makes sense narratively to set up that they should have done first 3 episodes. But the reason they didn't do that is because, as it points out, they only finished the finale about 2 weeks before the official release date, which means that they were kind of forced on crunch time. If they went with the original plan, they would have had to delay the finale. So that kind of speaks to why they did do the 2 episode release date, because if they would have put out all 3, we would have had to us waiting on pins and needles. We might have gotten the finale this Friday, or maybe even the next Friday. That would have maybe affected the Falcon and Winter Soldier, so on and so forth. So again, it's unfortunate that the pandemic kind of pushed things back, but I think narratively, well, it doesn't even matter now because we can watch all 9 episodes. They're all available on Disney Plus to stream and binge. But at the beginning, I think it would have been so much more of a better package, because I know some people, not for me, but I know a lot of people weren't the biggest fans of the first 2 episodes and diving into the 3rd episode. But I think for those people that didn't like the first 2 episodes, I think if they would have saw the first 3 episodes, they would have been a little bit more on the positive side in regards to what is this show? What does it have to say? But I think, again, we kind of learned from this article and from Matt Shakman that that's the reason why they only gave us the first 2 versus the first 3. Let me go ahead and dive into the chat right quick. Let me take this down for a second before we get into the other parts of this article and the discussion that was had last night. But let's scroll over here. Was there supposed to be a 10th episode? Yeah, so we talked about that. I'm just kind of catching up to the chat. I've heard a lot of chatter with people that I think the 9th episode was sloppy and rushed, and I'm not sure I agree. I'm glad they've taken an extra episode. Yeah, again, I'm catching up to the chat there, but I appreciate the comment. But yeah, I think that narratively speaking, I don't think the 9th episode, I think it wrapped up pretty much the main gist of the show. Again, Wanda facing her vision, or facing her trauma, saying goodbye to this reality she created. So I think they wrapped up the story pretty well, but there were some moments that just kind of felt like, okay, we got to get to the finish line, right? And as I just read in the article, there's kind of a reason behind that in regards to the pandemic affecting the show's layout and affecting the format of the show. But I don't think a 10th episode would have done much for my experience. I mean, of course, it would have been great to see more of Wanda and Vision. If anything, I think the 10th episode would have just given the secondary characters a little bit more screen time, a little bit more of like, okay, Monica leading into, Captain Marvel 2, Darcy, what the hell did she do? She just had one line and just like one moment there. So maybe that would have been it, but I think it was fine with the 9th episode. They may have introduced Mephisto or Nightmare as the main villain, maybe a second season in the summer. Disney now has over 90 million subscribers, should have done more. Yeah, I'm okay with the 1 season. I'm okay with that, to be honest with you, because again, we're going to be seeing Vision in the future. As I had mentioned, I would love to see Vision appear in Ironheart. Of course, I would love to see. Paul Bettany said the other day he wants to play Vision for the rest of his life, which is great to hear, because I think he's just like incredible in that role. And this is coming from someone that I wasn't the biggest fan of Vision for the longest time. I thought that very similar to, and this is a whole deep dive into, my least favorite Avengers, but like Vision, Hulk, Hawkeye, which he's going to get his show later this year, which is going to be more of a passing the mantle to Kate Bishop. But there are some characters to me that are just a little bit lacking in the interesting elements and backstory of the character. And for me, I was not a big fan of Vision up until this point. I think he's a very layered, very complex, very intellectual character, which he had those traits in the other films that we've seen him in, but I just never felt like I knew who Vision was, particularly until we got this show. I knew who Vision was from the comics and stuff. I'm just referring to in the context of the MCU. So again, a second season, I don't know if that would have been necessary, but again, I would have watched it. Don't get me wrong. I would have loved to have seen more of this, but we're going to see Vision again in the future. We're going to see Wanda again. All these characters, and we're going to see them in another show, maybe. Now, maybe not their own, but cameos and of course movies and stuff like that. I really get the feeling that the episodic shows really don't have to be watched by movie only folks, as if the shows are the bonus materials. That's a great point. And we kind of talked about that on Saturday's live stream, which again, that's in a link in the bio. So if you guys weren't able to tune in to Saturday's enormous 3-hour deep dive into the episode, into the show and all that fun stuff, myself, Chris, Amanda, Tessa from Mama's Geekly, we had Zach from Zach Pope, and of course we had the incredible Sharonda from Pay Your Weight. We really dove into the episode and just kind of really dove into the series as a whole. But in regards to your comment here, it is very interesting to see the future of the MCU regarding, if I don't see a show and if I go see a movie, will I understand the context of a Monica Rambeau being introduced in WandaVision, and then we see her in Captain Marvel 2 is like, wait, who are you? How did you become Spectrum? Things of that nature. Of course, next time the audience sees the white Vision, wait, why is Vision alive? Number one, and why is he white? Same goes with Wanda. Why is Wanda Scarlet Witch now? So it's going to be really, really interesting to see, though, the average moviegoer, the non-MCU fan lover, as we all are, how they're going to be able to take in this stuff that happens on shows. It's going to be really, really interesting. I had mentioned it on Saturday, for example, to me, the way we got that post-credit scene of WandaVision episode 9, I thought it would make so much sense if they took that scene of Wanda in the mountain off wherever she was, and her reading the dark hold, and here's the kid screaming. I think that would be such a great scene to put in a future movie, whether that be a post-credit scene for Spider-Man 3, or more particularly a beginning or a middle, or somewhere in the Doctor Strange movie. If they took that scene and put it in the film, it would make so much more sense for the average moviegoer that didn't see WandaVision. Because if a average moviegoer saw Wanda last in Endgame, they can connect the pieces to, okay, well, she's secluded, she's isolated, she's lost Vision, she's lost the Avengers, so she's off in a mountain. She now has this suit, she's the Scarlet Witch. Sure, there's some off-screen development for that moviegoer, but it kind of makes sense if in that scene a Doctor Strange comes in there, Baron Mordo, right? Or whoever the big bad is in Doctor Strange 2, a Mephisto, a Nightmare, or a combination of all two of those characters. That would be such a perfect scene to introduce the audience to catching up to what Wanda's been into, even though they didn't watch the show. Very similar to, and if you guys remember in Ant-Man, they had a post-credit scene for Cap and Sam. They captured Bucky, and then we saw that exact scene in Winter Soldier. So I think that would be or not Winter Soldier, but Civil War. I think they should put that Cap that we had at episode 9 into a Doctor Strange 2, or like I said, a post-credit scene for a Spider-Man film. So go back to the comments here. They may have introduced Mephisto. Oh, okay, yeah. Did I read that one? Okay, yeah, I got that question. Now let me go back here. I think I lucked out by being a newbie Marvel fan. I didn't have a lot of backstory and expectations. That's a great point. Yeah, I think look, the conversations had about how the theories might have disappointed some people, but I think that's part of the fandom, right? It's fun to theorize. It's just everyone has their own threshold. Everyone has their own tolerance of if their theory doesn't come true, they're going to just be fine with whatever the context of the show or movie was. And I'm that type of viewer. I make theories all day, every day. Like my man Cap says, I can do this all day coming up with theories. But if the theories don't come true, I'm fine with whatever the movie or the writer, the director, the showrunner, whatever they give us, I'm fine with it. Well, obviously, if it's a good show, if it's a good movie, if it's bad, obviously, then I'll have my flaws, whatever the piece of content is. But I'm not a person that I leave my expectations, I leave my theories at the front door and just take it for what it is. But I know not everyone has that type of threshold. But in regards to what you're saying, being a newbie and not having that much expectation, I think that's pretty cool, right? That's the beauty of Marvel is playing just like the comics. You can dive into a certain character, read a comic book run, and then go back and read the beginnings or read future comic book runs. I think that's the beauty of what MCU is doing. Yeah, you might not get all the nuance if you pop into a Winter Soldier. That's your first Marvel film, or your first Marvel film was Endgame, which would be crazy. But for some people, that happens, right? So I think it's so cool that Marvel has now had different flavors for everyone, right? You can get your action movie, your horror, potentially in the future films, your comedy, stuff like that. So that's the cool thing about Marvel. But then someone like me that watches all the movies, has read the comics, has watched some of the animated shows, it just makes those payoffs just have so much more meaning, right? Give us Stark dying, a Cap leaving, Thor joining the Guardians. Those scrub, they have no, they had no movies. Yeah, I mean, I'm fine without that extra context. We'll get more of their story in future stuff. But let me get back to this article here regarding Matt Shakman's interview with Kevin Smith on his incredible podcast, which again, I watched some of it. I got to finish it later today. But again, this article that I'm reading from is coming from, Murphy's Multiverse is the website that I'm on now. And again, this article, the link is in the description. So let's scroll down a little bit more, dive into some of this more this topic here. So it also seems that here's a big one here. It also seems that the engineer's tease was 100% intended. Now, when I watched the Kevin Smith podcast, I didn't see this conversation being had, which again, I'm going to go back and listen to the whole thing, but it seems that the engineer's tease was 100% intended, but this was okay. But was getting worried when people suddenly expected Reed Richards to show up. That's okay. So let me make sure I'm reading that right. It was also, it also seems that the engineer's tease was 100% intended, but was getting worried. What is was getting worried when people was, I guess I'm confused by that wording of they're saying that they were, I guess Matt Shakman and the showrunners were getting worried. That doesn't make any sense. They already had written that in the show. So I don't know why they would have pulled. Yeah, I don't know. I'll have to watch the video because I don't understand the context of that statement there. Who was getting worried? Because they would have already shot that scene. If it was, I assume it wasn't Reed Richards that was going to show up. That wasn't the engineer. A lot of people were speculating that they think it was Blue Marvel or, some other characters like, Hank McCoy, who AKA Beast, which I don't see that happening either. But I think the Blue Marvel stuff has some merit because if you guys have been following Captain Marvel, like casting announcements recently, I think there was an announcement they want to cast a John Boyega-ish type of actor to play a role in Captain Marvel 2, which could maybe speak to Adam's character, Blue Marvel. So, but I'm not really too sure. Again, I have to watch the full video to get full context of this statement because that doesn't really make much sense because they would have shot whoever the engineer was, which again, correct me if I'm wrong, but I really do hope that engineer wasn't the lady that came to speak to Monica and the was the 7th episode. I really hope that wasn't that intention there. I think it was just like a military person that knew Monica versus it being the person that actually made it. So that one's interesting because again, there was a lot of theories. I had talked about in my review regarding the Reed Richards cameo, which now thinking at it hindsight, not downplaying Disney Plus, not downplaying these Marvel shows because obviously Elizabeth Olsen, Paul Bettany, these are celebrities, right? These are mega stars. They're on Disney Plus, right? Jeremy Renner and all the people that they have announced are going to have their shows. They're respectively big time movie actors. So in my statement of saying like, okay, just thinking about if the first time the audience would have met a Reed Richards Fantastic Four introduction to MCU being on Disney Plus, I don't know if that would have worked. The significance is, again, going back to the statement earlier about what if people don't watch this show, people missed the opportunity of seeing Reed Richards in the MCU would be a huge missed opportunity for Marvel introducing such a pivotal character, the Marvel's first family being introduced on a television show that maybe, even though there's tons of Disney Plus subscribers, and that would have been the headline for weeks, Reed Richards appears in WandaVision. But just thinking in hindsight, I don't know if I would have loved that moment, but I don't know if it would have played better on a movie seeing Reed Richards and seeing obviously the rest of the Fantastic Four versus him making a cameo, an appearance in WandaVision. So at first I was kind of riding with that wave, like, oh, that would have been so cool. But now I'm thinking about it. I don't know if I would have been, I guess, entirely satisfied, I guess, with that introduction. It would have been a mic drop moment, don't get me wrong, but in context, it would have been like, come on, we gotta get this again. Going back into your Twitters down, going back into some of the conversation regarding the engineer, I guess, let me know in the comments, guys. Were you guys kind of bummed that we didn't see the engineer make an appearance on the finale? Because again, the incredible Tiana Paris, who plays Monica Rambeau, and this was another conversation we had on Saturday regarding, you know, the the press junkets of Paul Bettany talking about the big cameo, which ended up being the White Vision. You know, Elizabeth Olsen talking to the interviewer, saying that they're going to have a Luke Skywalker moment. Tiana Paris saying, "Oh, wait till you guys see who the engineer is." You know, some of that stuff was obviously they have to sell a show. They have to, you know, this is Disney Plus. They want to have as many subscribers as Netflix, so they have to, you know, sell stuff. But it was a little bit of a letdown that we didn't get all those big reveals. But let me know in the comments if you guys were one of those people that, like myself, was a little bit disappointed that we didn't have that mic drop moment of who the engineer was. Again, they can save that to be in Captain Marvel 2. Like, hey, thank you for making, you know, she has the reference, whoever the engineer is, thank you for making it. And the camera pans, and it is, you know, Blue Marvel. It is potentially Reed Richards in a film versus a TV show. But let me know how you guys took that in, that particular moment in regards to whoever that engineer was. Let me get into some of these comments here, and then we'll go into the second part of this article. Let me where did I leave off at? Let's see. No vision on Wanda shows, can't recommend a high enough box office. Yeah, I don't know if that was the case. I think it just played better in a TV show versus a movie. For me personally, Hulk turned to, yeah, I'm not a big fan of the Hulk at all in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, especially in the last few years. Can't even have Luke Skywalker like ending because they are arrogant and they know that Star Wars doesn't do it as well as Marvel. Interesting. Kevin Smith's interview with Shakman was enlightening. Still think they fumbled Quicksilver, but it was forgivable. Yeah, we talked about Matt or Ralph Boner on Saturday, and I don't know. There was another article that I read over the weekend that Kevin Feige said that there's still some there was intention behind why they casted Evan Peters, and who knows if that character will make another cameo in a future film. I hate what Fortnite did to Marvel. I don't play Fortnite, so I'm not too sure about that comment there. While diving deep into MCU because of WandaVision, I totally ended up loving the Hulk and Hawkeye along with Scarlet Witch and the Vision, and they were not my favorites before this experience. Yeah. Again, I'm really excited to see Hawkeye's, you know, Ronin. Obviously, we saw him as Ronin in Endgame, and exploring that element would made him, well, we know what made him go to that level because he lost his family. But I'm loving, I'm going to love to see more backstory of Jeremy Renner as Hawkeye, and of course, Kate Bishop becoming, leading into the Young Avengers potentially. But yeah, it's going to be so cool to get some more context of Rhodey getting his arm, was it Armed Wars, I believe is his show, getting more Rhodey and all that stuff. So I'm really excited for characters that really didn't get that much screen time in the movies to get a lot of screen time on a television show. To me, the tease was a setup perfectly for a scroll as a reveal. An alien would know a lot about the, yeah, for sure. They still revealed him as a, yeah, they could still do that. And I thought that would have been a good moment to have in the show, like have that her friend had been the person that met her at the theater, but it was just like a random scroll. All righty here. Again, guys, thank you so much for tuning into the discussion. Again, this was kind of a random impromptu your Twitter is down. I don't even know what that means. A little random impromptu discussion about some of this WandaVision stuff that went on behind the scenes. I don't know. My Twitter's working fine on my end. I'm not sure. But anyway, going back to the conversation, yeah, I appreciate you all tuning in. This is kind of a random stream talking about some of the stuff that went down behind the scenes. Initially, they wanted to have 10 episodes. You know, they were affected by the pandemic. They only had like a couple weeks to finish up the finale, which affected the show initially having the first 3 episodes delivered to the audience versus the first 2 episodes. And of course, we just talked a little about the engineer having a big moment of being initially a plan. But I guess, again, the article reads kind of weird in regards to they were afraid that since the engineer wasn't Reed Richards, that they didn't want to, I don't know, that part of the article was a little weird. I'm gonna have to watch the full video to get full context of that comment. But We're going to go back into the article here, but let me just read a couple more comments here. I think the way they're setting or seeding the Young Avengers in the shows is a great template for Seed the Mutants, sprinkle them. Yeah, that's something that I had mentioned a while ago. I think that, again, like you just had mentioned, Tommy and Billy, introducing them, Speed and Wiccan a little bit and seeing them in the future shows. You know, we're going to get Kate Bishop, obviously, in Hawkeye. We're going to get Stature in Ant-Man Quantumanium. Who else are we going to get on the table? I think we're going to get Patriot and Falcon and Winter Soldier, who is, you know, a little bit of plays into the lore of Isaiah Bradley, and I believe is his nephew, if I'm not mistaken. So, yeah, man, they're definitely setting the seeds, planting the seeds for the Young Avengers. But like you just said, I think it'll be so great to introduce the X-Men slowly but surely within a movie, within a show, and then obviously leading up into the grandioso of you know, Professor X, Magneto, so on and so forth. So I think that's a great comment there. Olsen never mentioned Luke Skywalker. Yeah, you know, I've been saying that for weeks when a lot of people brought that up, that I've always was on the fence of like, no, Elizabeth Olsen never referred to the cameo as Luke Skywalker. It was the interviewer that had set it up that way, and she just said, yeah, well, she just played along with the narrative, played along with the comment, but I think she still could have. It's just so weird to me, these celebrities who prep for, you know, years of how to be trained to take questions, to take, you know, when they're being questioned. And sometimes I feel like these celebrities just get like pressured into saying things like, yeah, this is a Luke Skywalker moment. Like, no, just take it back a little bit and say, I don't know if it's, you know, I wouldn't say it's Luke Skywalker, and you know, go on and say whatever she's going to say. But yeah, it's the Luke Skywalker thing obviously was a headline that a lot of people ran with. Yes, I totally would have loved a big extra reveal, but it didn't break the show. Yeah, same here. I totally agree with you. Well, yeah, what's the thing about the Twitter? I try following you on Twitter, but the link in the description. Oh, gotcha. My bad. Yeah, I can fix that. I think sometimes when I copy and paste my description stuff, it doesn't have the full full link. So if you want to follow me on Twitter, it's at Movie Files Live. If you guys want to follow me on the Twitter. We appreciate you, Elliot. Thanks for the live streams and great content, Movie Files. This is so much fun. You do it. Oh, thank you so much. I appreciate it. I appreciate you all. I love talking to you all about, you know, anything Marvel, DC, independent films, TV shows, all that fun stuff. This is I love it. And I appreciate you guys taking in the content and having a good time and helping this community continue to grow. So I appreciate you guys a lot. So let's go back to the article here, and we'll wrap this thing up here in a little bit. But going back to the article, again, this is from the interview that Matt Shakman had on Kevin Smith's podcast, and this is coming from Murphy's Multiverse. Again, the link is in the description for this full article, as well as the interview that Matt Shakman had with Kevin Smith. So again, a lot was left on the cutting room floor, so it may have originally been a bigger part in regards to the payoffs. Okay, so that goes back to context with the Reed Richards thing there. So I guess they would have had a payoff, but they left it on the cutting room floor. Interesting. Which I guess, by the way, aren't we supposed to be getting that Marvel show this Friday? Geez, what's the name of it? Assembled or something like that, which is like the behind the scenes of WandaVision. I wonder if they're going to play into some of that stuff that maybe was left on the cutting room floor. But as I digress, they also confessed that a lot of the CGI edits were a bit awkward, as pointed out by Smith. That's funny. I wonder how he phrased that, if he like offended Matt Shakman. Like, the CGI was terrible, man. I'm sure he didn't do that. But so he also confessed that a lot of the CGI was a bit awkward, and they had to finalize this in post lockdown. So that's interesting. I don't think the CGI was awkward, but I think, again, this just speaks to my negative stance on the finale as a whole. I felt like the action just didn't really work for me, and not so that it felt clunky or felt bad. I just didn't feel like it was necessary, if I'm being honest. Of course, seeing Vision on Vision, which I love that the show didn't just focus on that fight. They actually had a conversation. But Agatha and Wanda, very awesome moment. I love the reveal of Scarlet Witch. I thought the costume was fantastic. But it just felt like, let's throw in this action just because we're Marvel and we're the MCU. We have this big budget. Let's do a bunch of spectacle stuff. I just thought, I don't know if you guys watch Noah Hawley's Legion on FX a couple years ago. I believe it had 3 seasons. an incredible show. It's a Marvel property. It's X-Men property. It's the son of in the comics. It's the son of Charles Xavier. That show is fantastic, and that show had action beats, but it wasn't about the action. It was more about the mental, the mindset. That show is like incredible. If you guys want to see, if you guys are into comic books and love comic book content, watch FX Legion by Noah Hawley. It's like incredible show. But I bring it up to say, like, that show didn't necessarily rely on its action and tell its narrative. It relied on the characters. It relied on the story. So I just felt like, to me, the action in WandaVision wasn't necessary, in my personal opinion. But again, it's very interesting that they do say that I guess the CGI was a bit awkward and it wasn't finalized completely in the post-production of the show, which is very, very interesting to say. I'll have to rewatch the show, but I didn't feel like the CGI was bad at all. I thought the CGI was actually pretty like up to par to some of the best Marvel stuff, but I'll have to revisit it. But let's see. Monica. Okay, so this goes into secondary characters, which, as I talked about a little bit earlier, this happened 10 episodes. Maybe this would have been fleshing out the characters a little bit more with the secondary characters. So as the article reads here, let me scroll it again. We got all these silly ads popping up on the screen. Let me scroll. There we go. Monica was originally going to have a bigger role in the finale. That's so crazy because we were talking about that on Saturday. Such as her, the kids, Ralph. Ralph Boner would have been in the mix, huh? And Darcy trying to steal the Darkhold from the basement. There we would find out that Bunny Scratchy was a demon. It was all filmed but couldn't get finished for the VFX. Wow. Okay. That's really, really interesting. So let me know, everyone that's watching this live and watching this on the replay, would you have liked to have seen this scene take place, which is Monica. Let me go back to the article. Monica, the kids, Billy and Tommy, Ralph, Darcy would have went into the basement of Agatha. So I assume this would have took place during the fight between Wanda and Monica. And they would have went into the basement, took the Darkhold, and done what with the Darkhold, I guess, right? What would they have done with the Darkhold? Number one, could they have even like come into contact? I know it's not like an Infinity Stone, but like what happens when a mortal comes into contact with the Darkhold? But either here nor there, I guess that would have been cool. Especially with the bunny. I thought the bunny was going to be revealed to be someone important, right? Some people were speculating that was going to be Doctor Strange. And he was, manipulated by Agatha. Some people were speculating that was Ralph, the bunny, the whole time. The fly on the wall was Mephisto in episode 8. But yeah, he would have become a demon. That would have been interesting. But again, I guess I don't know how that scene would have played out in context of the show. Like, okay, they get the Darkhold. They deliver it to Wanda, and she does. I guess just thinking about it, I guess I'm glad that didn't happen. Of course, I would have liked to have seen bigger roles for Monica. Obviously, the kids, Mr. Ralph Boner himself, if he would have played into the mix a little bit more, and then obviously Senior Scratchy, seeing him as a demon, that would have been really, really interesting. But I guess I just don't understand what they would have done with the Darkhold, and what would they. The purpose of that scene really, I guess, would have been clunky. So I guess it worked out for the better. But again, let me read some of these comments because I don't know how that would have played out. I don't know if I would have liked that scene, if I'm being honest. Let me get to the comments here. Storm and Black Panther, Wolverine as Logan could be Mercedes and Falcon. Yes. Hank McCoy could be a partner of Banner. Yeah, man, I'm loving where you're at with some of these theories there. I like that a lot. Again, this article is in the interview is in the description. So when I'm done with this live stream, if you guys want to watch it, it's a great interview. At least the parts that I saw was a really good interview. Okay, I'll check out Legion. That's on Netflix. No, Legion is on. It was an FX show, so it's probably streaming on Hulu because I think Hulu and Netflix are two of the same, or Hulu and FX are two of the same. So it's on Hulu, and it's a fantastic show. Dan Stevens, I'm a big Dan Stevens fan. He was incredible. Aubrey Plaza was in it. I can't remember some of the the other actors, but I love Legion. You're talking about Legion is, thank you, Omar. Yeah, it is on Hulu. Keep it focused on Wanda and Vision. Yes, Senior Scratchy. And I would have loved to have I guess that would have been a cool thing of seeing him become a demon. I guess that demon would have looked like, but I guess I don't know the context of that scene, how that would have played out exactly. it would have explained how Wanda got it. Yeah, I guess so. Because the last time we saw it in the show, was when Agatha had it and was showing opened the page to her book. Yeah, so I guess that could have played into context there because she really didn't do anything with the book in the show. So yeah, I guess they could have showed them sneaking. I guess it just would have been like placement wise when in the episode when they would they have taken the dark hole. But yeah, I guess they would have been like, here, Wanda, we got this for you. But I guess we'll never know, right? But that makes sense though, that's how she got in her possession. I'm calling now the dark hole will lead into Blade. Marvel vampires were birthed from the dark hole. Yeah. From what I remember from some of the comics here, that does lead into the more supernatural side. Werewolf by Night, obviously a little ties into a little bit of dark or Moon Knight and stuff like that. So yeah, that's going to be really, really awesome, man, which would explain again, going into a Doctor Strange 2, this dark hole is in the possession of Wanda. Doctor Strange wants it probably. Maybe some other characters want it. So yeah, that's a really good gateway into the Daywalker, which is I can't wait for that to come out. Let's see. I just watched a flashback of Aaron Taylor to give they recast some context. I just watched a flash. Oh, okay. Gotcha. So Ralph Bohner is an actor, ? Maybe his connection to Quicksilver is that he plays him in a movie or a play. Yeah, I mean, we know Marvel has had their own, like they've had plays in the show, in the movies, right? With Thor Ragnarok. And obviously, I don't know if you guys saw the set photos of, what's her name? Melissa McCartney is going to be playing, well, I don't want to spoil anything for those that are excited about Thor Love and Thunder, but they're going to have another play. I'll just say that in Thor Love and Thunder. So maybe he isn't. That is funny if that's how they play that. They should have done the finale as a 2-part thing. Would have been more time to explain more things. Yeah, we talked about that a little bit earlier. Like I said, I think if they would have had a 10th episode, it would have fleshed out the secondary characters more so than Wanda and Vision, because I think that their story ended pretty well, in my opinion. But going back to the article here, let's just wrap up and see. There might have been a lot more that got cut down. It's just a shame to see. Okay, this is just the person who wrote this article talking about. Okay, so yeah, again, just recapping it, guys. We talked about it at the beginning. There was supposed to initially they wanted to do 10 episodes, but they got cut down to 9. Obviously, they were going to do the first 3 episodes were going to be released to the public, which I think would have played better narratively speaking. But obviously, they only gave us the first 2, and the reason they gave us the first 2 is because they were literally. They had to wrap up the finale and like they were in crunch time. So if they would have given us the first 3, that would have potentially delayed the finale to this Friday or maybe even next Friday, which would have affected the Falcon and Winter Soldier. We talked a little bit about the we talked about the Reed Richards potentially, how they didn't want to have that be in the show. That was, I guess, apparently left on the cutting room floor. There was a scene that was actually shot and put together. It just wasn't, the VFX wasn't done, that it would have been a scene involving Monica, Billy, Tommy, Ralph Bohner, as well as Darcy going into the basement of Agatha, taking possession of the dark hold. And like someone mentioned earlier, I guess they were going to give it to Wanda, explaining why she has it in her possession at the end of the show. So that was cut down, unfortunately, due to the time restrictions that the show had, unfortunately, due to the pandemic, which is unfortunate, which leads me into kind of my final points, and then we'll wrap it up. Again, if you guys want, I'll probably stay on for another, we'll go till 4. It's 3:49 on my end, so we'll go for another 11 minutes. So questions, comments, concerns, if you guys want, you don't have to. Super chats, those are available, as well as Streamlabs and PayPal. If you guys want to help support the channel, you could do so, but drop all your questions for the next 10 minutes. I'm going to try to get to as many as possible, then we'll wrap this thing up. But I guess what that leads off to me in regards to this whole kind of conversation regarding the pandemic affecting WandaVision, what does that mean for Falcon and Winter Soldier, which is the next show that we're getting next week, which I can't wait for. Mark your calendars. We're going to be reviews, discussions, all that stuff that we did for WandaVision. We're going to be doing the same thing for that, and I can't wait. So hopefully you guys will be excited for that. But we all know, or if you don't know, Falcon and Winter Soldier was shut down last year due to the pandemic, and they had like a couple weeks left of shooting. The 6 episodes, and who knows if their finale was affected by the pandemic as WandaVision was, which makes me not necessarily nervous, but obviously kind of reading this article, there were scenes left on the cutting room floor. Because one of my biggest things that I did mention in my finale review, I felt like Monica got the short end of the stick. I felt like Jimmy Woo, Darcy, and all the secondary characters, which again, it's not their show. They're going to be in other movies and shows, but I felt like they got the short end of the stick, and particularly Monica. I felt like Monica was just kind of like, it didn't feel organic to the character in regards to the way that they kind of handled the finale. It felt a little underwhelming. Again, I'm excited to see Tiana Paris and potentially Ms. Marvel, but of course, we're going to see her again in Captain Marvel 2. But I felt like she could have done a lot more in the finale. The connection she had with Wanda of their grief could have played out a little bit better, and she could have done a little bit more in the show. As we see in this, there was a scene that was cut out that was involved Monica. So in regards to Falcon and Winter Soldier, I hope their finale was able to, as according to plan, everything still worked out that was in the script. And obviously, I hope they were able to go back to production and shoot what they wanted to attend. But if not, who knows? In 3 months, we'll be reading. I don't even know who the showrunner is for Falcon and Winter Soldier, but maybe he'll be on Kevin Smith. He or she will be on Kevin Smith's podcast and say, well, the finale had had Wolverine pop up in the show. We had a whole X-Men scene. Captain America came back as the Hydra version of Captain America. Mephisto came up. Hopefully that isn't the case, right? But I hope that the show was able to do everything that they wanted to do, even though they were obviously shut down by the pandemic. I hope that Falcon and Winter Soldier was able to get things done as intended and wasn't too disrupted by the pandemic, like WandaVision was apparently affected pretty badly. Oh, not pretty badly, but it was affected by the release of the episodes, potentially having more episodes and having scenes left on the cutting room floor. So I hope that Falcon and Winter Soldier doesn't have the same fate as that show. So fingers crossed. Let's see. It's funny to think that these studios are working right now to the wire. I know, right? That is so like the pressure, but I mean, they get paid the big bucks. They're prepared for it, right? Actually probably working up to the wire in their home. Yeah, that's the big thing. They're all working from home right now, like a lot of us are. And now I'm super high. Look. Let's see. Let me finish reading your comments before I get into my anticipation level for that. How about you guys? And what are your major predictions for the show? So, Falcon and Winter Soldier, I think it's going to surprise a lot of people, because I think a lot of people are just assuming it's going to be, your traditional Marvel, action here, some jokes here, some comic relief, some, this, that, and the third. They think it's going to be a safe show. I think this show is going to have a lot more in-depth, more intellectual conversations than a lot of people are anticipating. And it shows in a trailer. It shows in the comments by Anthony Mackie, recently Kevin Feige, as well as the people behind the show, that this show is going to dive into a lot of the conversations being had regarding the Shield and regarding the idea that America won't be accepting of a Black Captain America, right? In the history of the Shield, and particularly the first Captain America was a Black man. It was Isaiah Bradley. So that's never mentioned in the MCU, right? So it's mentioned, that is a big storyline in the comics. So that's why Sam is reluctant to take in the Shield, because it's not a matter of like filling the shoes of Steve Rogers. It's just like, well, if America already has buried the history books of a Black man taking on the taking on the super serum and becoming the first Black Captain America, then what are they going to do with me, right? So I think it's going to dive deeper into that. I think it's going to dive into the politics of like the Sokovia Accords are still in play. There's some Avengers that are wanted fugitives. Wanda's a fugitive. Sam is a fugitive. I mean, Bucky's a fugitive. So what does the world look like accepting these Avengers that are technically criminals, right? So I think we're going to dive into that. What does the world look like after the 5-year blip, politically speaking, the economy. So I think this show's going to dive deep into a much more grounded level. This show hasn't been announced to tie into any movies, which I'm not saying that was a downfall for WandaVision, but knowing that this was a setup for, Doctor Strange 2, it kind of shows that in this film. It kind of shows you, we're going to introduce Monica, but we're not going to give you a lot of spectrum and all that. You're going to see her again, in Captain Marvel 2. So I think that some of the storylines was a little bit underwhelming because it was leading up. It was a setup for future things, which not saying that Falcon and Winter Soldier is going to obviously tie into something else to the greater MCU, but I think this is more of a singular show more so than Wanda. Like, I think I don't think Loki is necessarily tied into a movie. It might, time travel, Kang the Conqueror maybe ties into Ant-Man 3, but there hasn't been any confirmation that Loki's tied into a movie. The only show that Kevin Feige said that's going to lead into a movie right now, to my knowledge, was Wanda and WandaVision, right? But everything else seems to be like its own kind of capsulated story, which will plant the seeds but doesn't tie directly into a movie like WandaVision. So I'm hoping that's going to make Falcon Winter Soldier feel more of like a complete story and less of the unanswered questions than we got with WandaVision. And then of course I can't leave out the fact that we're going to dive into probably one of the most underrated villains of the MCU, which is Baron Zemo. He is the only character that literally, besides Thanos and I would say Killmonger, he essentially, his plan kind of played out into fruition regarding opening up the doors to Wakanda at the end of Black Panther. Again, Baron Zemo, his whole thing was to civil war, to clash, to have the heroes being broken down. So he's still out there. Seeing his storyline is going to be great. Sharon Carter, what has she been up to these last 5 years? Who else do we have that's been, announced on the show? Or I guess predictions who I would like to see in the show. I think General Ross is going to play a big part into the show. I think we're going to see a little bit more of setting up. Maybe, again, I don't think it's going to set up, but I think we're going to get some of the, maybe Shang-Chi, the 10 rings are out there, the Mandarin, that's a ground level type of villain. So, setting up that movie or having some seeds being planted. But I think someone mentioned a little bit earlier, don't be surprised if you see some X-Men Easter eggs. Again, we're talking about a show that's dealing with people being experimented on. Obviously, Logan was an experiment, so you might get a little bit of X-Men vibes in the show, potentially. And also, again, we got to remember the Skrulls are out there still, man. They're infiltrating every level of humanity when it comes to Secret Invasion. So I can go on and like Captain America said, I can do this all day as far as predictions and theories. So I'm more than excited to dive into Falcon and Winter Soldier next week. So definitely keep an eye out for all that content coming to you all pretty soon. I really love the idea of Cap being Charlie and Falcon and Bucky being angels. That's funny. That's really, really funny. I might not watch the theory videos this time. Yeah, the theory videos, right? Mephisto is going to be the villain of Falcon and Winter Soldier. Even though all the speculating theories made it, that's the fun thing, right? This is about expectations. Some people can handle the theories and just take it for what it is and just have fun with it. But some people take that stuff as like facts. Like, it's a fact that Mephisto is going to be in the show. And if it isn't, I hate Marvel. They ruin my childhood. But some people like myself, I love reading the theories. Like, oh, that sounds so cool. But if it doesn't happen, it is what it is, right? I avoid spoilers, but theories crafting is fun. Yeah, it's fun. The theories are always fun, for me at least. Zemo is a good villain. You really understand exactly, right? His kids, his wife, his dad was killed in a freaking not Civil War, but Age of Ultron, Sokovia going up in the air and being decimated. You see the motives, you understand where he's coming from. And again, he's an underrated villain because he did exactly what he set out for. So I'm a big fan of Baron Zemo and excited to see him wreck shop. Because as he says in the trailer, the world, I don't know, I can't do the Sokovian accent. The world needs no superheroes. That was terrible. Scratch that out, edit that out, right? No, but this, excuse me, his comment leads into, again, the world doesn't like superheroes these days in the MCU. You lost to Thanos. Wanda's kidnapping people. You got fugitives doing their own missions. So I don't know, man. Baron Zemo is looking like a hero in the MCU these days. What's going on, team? JBS, you guys have been killing it with all the live streams on the just getting me hyped for the Snyderverse coming up next week. Definitely give those guys a follow and subscribe to their channel. They have incredible content. Thank you so much for the super sticker. I really appreciate it. Again, I appreciate everyone that tuned in. I'm going to go ahead and end the stream here in a second, but thank you guys. Thank you so much for the super chat. I really appreciate the support there. And appreciate every single one of you all. Omega Red. Oh yeah. I'm telling you, man, the X-Men are on their way. I appreciate, again, a super chat or a super sticker. I appreciate you guys commenting, keeping this video fun. It was me solo dolo. It was kind of a random thing that I want to kind of talk to you all about since we got the last of WandaVision on Friday leading up into Falcon Winter Soldier. So again, I hope you all enjoyed this conversation. If you're watching this on the replay, make sure to like the video, share the video, comment your thoughts in the comments. Would you want a 10th episode? Would you want to have seen all 3 episodes at once during the initial release of WandaVision? Would you have wanted to see that scene involving the twins, Monica, Darcy, and Ralph Boner, taking on Senior Scratchy as a demon? What else did we learn about in this article? Did you feel the VFX was a little bit off in the finale? And just let me know your thoughts about this entire conversation we had. Again, guys, make sure that you're marking your calendars, because next week, it's a big week. We got Zack Snyder's Justice League. We got Falcon and Winter Soldier, and it's going to be so much conversations around all those wonderful things, and I can't wait to talk about it with you all coming next week. In regards to this week's content, more of the clip outs from Saturday Conversation. I don't know if I have a movie review lined up. I don't think there's any big releases coming up this week, but keep an eye out for it. Hit the, subscribe to Movie Files, hit the notification so you don't miss any of my content. But again, I appreciate every single one of you guys tuning in. Let me read these final little comments. See, I love listening to you guys. Elliot, thank you so much for tuning in. Also, Spider-Man Denny is now very curious. It's very true. Heroes are not love. This very brother, you and the crew have been rocking consistently as well. No clue how you do it as well as everybody. Hey, man, I appreciate the love. And again, show some support to the team, JBS, and subscribe to their channel. They got some incredible content over there, guys. So Zemo better have his signature wife. Yeah. Zemo's going to be swagged up come next week. But again, guys, thank you for tuning in. I appreciate you guys. Hope you have a great rest of your day, and we'll see you pretty soon later in the week with some new content. And then next week, Falcon, Winter Soldier, Zack Snyder's Justice League. It's a wonderful time to be alive, to say the least. But again, take care. You guys stay safe, and we'll see you all on the next video.